In this video, we're going to take a look at 10 minimal web developer portfolio designs for you to use as inspiration for your own portfolio. When you're looking to get a new developer job, and especially your first developer job without a proven track record of work experience, your portfolio is a fantastic tool to showcase your work in the best light. The tricky part is that a great developer like yourself who is great for the job might not be a great person at designing stuff from scratch. Yeah, you could use a template, and that is okay, by the way. What matters the most is the content, like your projects and your bio, but you do run the risk of having the same design as someone else, which isn't the best look, we can say, and you're missing an opportunity to express yourself through your own design. There is a bit of a risk though when you're not good at design, and I see this quite a lot in portfolio review threads on Twitter and some videos that I've seen. It's just that the portfolios don't look that good in the end, and it's clear that you're not a great designer. And it's a shame because even though you probably shouldn't be judged on your design skills as a developer, it is going to, I think, bias and leave an impression with whoever's looking at your portfolio. The conclusion I've came to and the motivation for this video is that if you can instead rely on very simple designs that look clean and just actually quite beautiful, you will be in a much better place. And the nice thing about these type of designs is that you can use quite simple elements, loads of which you're going to see in this video while we run through the designs. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So first up, we have a portfolio by a woman named Delber. I have to say, the first time I saw this portfolio with the highlighter effect, I audibly oohed and ahed. But at the same time, it's rather simple, right? You've got two columns, some nicely formatted text, and that's about it. What makes this stand out is the little design effect of the highlighting, which is actually done with a JavaScript library I'm linking below called Rough Notation. Just a heads up, if you go to Delber's website today, it's gonna look different because she's since reworked it to be more focused on blog posts. And actually, I think that's a good lesson because your portfolio is always meant to support your professional goals. And the portfolio you create when you're looking for a job might be different from the portfolio and personal website you maintain when you're happily chugging along. Next up, we have a portfolio from Alex, who is actually my old coworker. We used to work together at a company called Pusher, and I've kept a close eye on his stuff because he's a very talented designer. I love this example of a minimal portfolio that is not just white and black. Alex keeps it very simple with one column, and notice how he's only featuring 3 selected work. This is because Alex understands that a recruiter or hiring manager doesn't have time to look at all your projects and give you the benefit of the doubt. They're probably going to click whichever 2 or 3 you put at the top. So why put guesswork into it when you can control what the reader's going to see and to some extent what impression they're going to leave with? Something Alex has done very well, which I would encourage everybody to do, is created subpages for the projects. That's because when you just link to the project, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong. Maybe the user doesn't take the right path through the application, or maybe because it's a side project, there's an obscure bug or error or glitch, and it's not really your fault. It's a side project or something that you've built by yourself, but it can negatively bias the user as well. It would be much better to create a dedicated page where you can tell the story about how the project came to be, what role you played, how you went about making certain decisions, what technologies you used, and ideally give enough screenshots or videos that they don't really need to click through to the website beyond just verifying that, like, yeah, this is a real thing and all that I read was accurate. Next up, we have a portfolio by Lee Robinson, who works at Next and is a YouTuber as well. I love the light and dark mode, and I just want to point out that because his profile picture is black and white, it doesn't really clash at all, whether you're in light or dark mode. And somewhere between Delber and Alex's portfolio, I think, in that it's quite simple in its design, but it just has that little pop of color with the gradient borders, and that works really nicely, I think. Next up, we have a portfolio by Frankelina. Now, I'm a bit of an espresso drinking, mustache tweezing hipster, and I have to say that this project looks a bit more traditional than, say, Delber or Alex's, which is slightly more designy in my opinion. But that's actually why I include this, because it's incredibly effective, even though the design is a tiny bit simpler. And one thing I want to point out about Frankelina's portfolio that I really rate is that she, like Alex, has included these case studies But rather than developing web pages for them, she's created a PDF, which is as simple as writing the summary in Google Docs and doing like file print to PDF. This way you're ticking off all the boxes around explaining your project and avoiding any potential mishaps if there's an error or something on the page, but you're not having to invest so much time into fleshing out your portfolio. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've interviewed someone on the Scrimba podcast who have told me, yeah, I was planning to come back to my portfolio, but I got a job already and now it's not a priority. I think just having something is better than nothing, and I think Frankelina shows us how to strike that balance between getting something out the door, but also making it look really professional and appealing. Next up, we have a pretty ambitious minimal design by Brian. Although it's more minimal, I think it's slightly trickier to implement and make look great across different viewport sizes, but it's great inspiration nonetheless. Here's a portfolio by Justin that has a really cool typing effect that grabs your attention right away. You get this vibe that you're typing into a terminal that must be supported by the terminal graphic below, which, by the way, the cursor blinks in unison, which is pretty sick and a nice detail. But when you see this, you have no doubt that Justin works with computers and is probably a programmer. I think that's a great message to send out. And again, it's not just about being black and white. In Justin's case, they've got a nice blue palette going on with little accents in the project pictures. Once again, they've added some depth to the design with screenshots of the projects. The only thing I would improve here is maybe just to do what Alex did and put the other few projects behind a link and just showcase the top 3. Again, I want to be realistic here when I say that this is a slightly more ambitious minimal design, but it is sick, right? And each project has this little card where you can swipe through and then click in and see more information. Remember, this is meant to be inspiration, and maybe you want to push yourself and do a cool page transition like this, but it would be totally okay to put that as a static page as well. Now, I might be clutching at straws a little bit here, but this is a really nice minimal page by someone named Darius, although it's not a web developer portfolio. There are some design elements which I think work really well though. Like instead of designing a logo from scratch, they've given their name a kind of stylish font that almost looks like a logo and brings a bit of identity into the website. The other reason I feel justified including this is because when you're building a portfolio from scratch, I think there's this temptation to open Figma or Sketch and start sketching, but the content is the most important thing. And I personally really rate the idea of spinning up a blog instance, whether that's with Eleventy or with Ghost even, and just creating posts for each of your projects. And then you can create a theme around that. And what Darius has here is essentially more of a blog than it is a portfolio website, but you can get some ideas about how they've used the same type of blog format to advertise their courses. I think there's a lot to take away from this. Next up, we have a portfolio by Josh, which is pretty sweet. The thing I really like about this portfolio is the delightful little effects and interactions, like when you top up the heart. Josh has also gone the route of, instead of including a personal profile picture, which you might not feel comfortable to do, I think he's commissioned someone to make this kind of illustration, which is pretty sick. Bit of a rogue idea, but you could even consider generating something with a tool like DALL-E. I don't think this is achievable for like your first portfolio. Again, I just want to set expectations, but it's really funny that the idea for this video and the blog post, which you can check out in the description, came from when I interviewed Josh on the podcast. So I wanted to make him part of this. And while I was reading about how he built his blog, because Josh has this great article where he breaks down the stack and how he creates the animations and interactive code and stuff like that, I also found an old version of his blog, which I think is also very nice, also very inspiring. And I think it really demonstrates to us that you don't have to nail it the first time. You can probably see how some of the brand identity from this early version has just been evolved over time to what you see today. One of the most powerful things that people seem to forget about side projects and portfolios and just web development in general is that it's not a book, you don't publish it and then it's done. You get to iterate on it. So it's great to start simple, play around, put something functional out there. You might just get hired before you get a chance to improve it, which is not a bad problem to have. But if you do want to keep coming back to it like Josh did, you might find that the identity doesn't change, it just evolves. Last up, we have a really slick portfolio by Connor. I just love this one. It's a bit more orientated towards a blog rather than projects, but you totally can imagine how each of these pages could be for a portfolio. Overall, I love it when above the hero, you get to know the person's name, what they look like, where they are on socials, and just get a quick summary of what they're all about. I think that's really helpful. So there you have it. There are 10 minimal web developer portfolios to inspire you. I don't need to say this, but I would feel a bit more comfortable if I just pointed out that you should not copy or rip off anybody's designs. This is really meant to get the blood flowing and spark some creative ideas. I think oftentimes being creative and coming up with something unique is drawing from a bunch of inspiration and combining ideas to create something new. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like the video if you got value from it, subscribe to the Scrimba YouTube channel for more like this, and if you're still in the mood to watch something else, here are 2 videos you can check out. I've been Alex Booker. Goodbye.